It is Thursday, July 28th, 2022. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by these guys at Shady Rays. Not only the best looking shades in the entire business, but when you lose them, which I almost did on vacation, or you break them, which I will at some point over the next 60 days, they will replace them. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Alden, along for the ride as well. And I believe you and your forgotten rotten teammates make their floorball debut tonight in the warehouse games. Is that correct?
It is correct. Me, Ben DiNucci, Nikki Cass, Dalton Feely out on the rink. I think it's called a rink.
Yes.
And man, we are by far the most athletic team in the tournament. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, you have two guys that played professionally, and then Nikki Cass, who's a great athlete. I love Dalton.
It's really just me and Ben DiNucci. I don't know. Nikki Cass doesn't really cross that athletic tier for me just yet.
By the way, I'm going to see Ben DiNucci this weekend. My assignment, when it's back together Saturday, when all 32 teams are practicing at the same time, I'm going out to Cowboys camp to host out there. I should reach out to Ben DiNucci, shouldn't I?
You should. I'll give him a text. I'll shoot you his number. Oxnard, huh? Heading up to Oxnard.
Yeah, link us up. That'll be fun. So make sure you check that out, guys. Do we know if that's at 7 o'clock Eastern or 6 o'clock? Because I think it started at 6 the other day. Do we know if the live stream is at 7 or 6? We'll get it out to you in a couple of minutes. Alden or Dan, you guys can look that up and shoot it through the chat. But in the meantime, let's start talking a little baseball. We had our biggest trade so far, as we are less than a week away from the trade deadline. And remember, there is only one deadline. The New York Yankees, whose hat I am donning today, get the Royals all-star outfielder Andrew Benintendi for 3 minor league pitchers. None of them ranked in the top 15 of the Yankees farm system. Of course, keep in mind that Benintendi is a rental. All right, Plouffe, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited should the Bronx Bombers fans feel?
I'm going to go with like a 7 to 7.5. I really like Benny. I think he's a really good player, and he kind of fits what they need, especially when you think about, what they've already done as an offense. They're scoring runs just fine. I believe they lead the league in runs scored. Okay, but then you think about, you put him down in the bottom of the lineup, kind of replacing Joey Gallo, who has a 297 on base percentage. I mean, his struggles in New York are well documented. So now you add Benny to the mix, and as of today, 387. You're basically getting 100 extra points on base percentage at the bottom of your lineup, and that's what you want from the bottom of your lineup. You're going to hit in the bottom third. Work good at bats, get on base for the top of the order, lengthen, the pitch count for the starter on the opposing team, stuff like that. That's what Benny's going to bring. That's what the Yankees need. He's also going to slide into, I believe, left field. They'll probably move Hicks to right, I would say, and keep Judge in center.
Sounds about right. I think
maybe they
accurate.
put Benny in right. It doesn't matter. He's going to improve the outfield defense also. So I think it's a good move for the Yankees. I don't think they're done, Chris. I believe they're still going to go after a starting pitcher. They're still in the Juan Soto situation here, but a nice preemptive strike for the Yankees. And I really do think it makes their ball club better.
Yeah, I think you graded it out perfectly. I had it right around a 7. It's interesting because I didn't even know this until I looked at his stats yesterday. Do you know he has fewer than 20 extra base hits this year? It's bizarre.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with playing in Kansas City. When you're in Kansas City, that outfield is massive, and it just lends itself to like you getting base hits. Now you put him in Yankee Stadium, I think that could change. Like this guy's typically a 15, 20 homer guy. He's, I think that's going to, his power numbers, his slugging is going to go up playing in Yankee Stadium as opposed to Kansas City. It's just not a great place to hit for power.
I know, but you can get doubles. Those are extra base hits too in Kansas City.
You can. A lot of times they can play the outfield back, and I'm telling you, man, it's a strange outfield.
I get it, but the Yankees did not bring him in to rival Judge swing for swing.
No,
they brought him in so that he can be on base when those big boppers put the ball over the fence, and that's exactly what he will do. He's had an amazing year in terms of batting average and RBI and on base percentage. That's what they need. He is an elite defender too. On top of that, really one of the most famous catches that I can remember over the last 10 years is that one where he stole from Bregman. I think it was in game 4 of the ALCS in 2018. That ball gets past him. Series is tied. Could be a different story. Instead, I believe it was game 4. It was either 3 or 4, but it was.
Yeah, they were up 2. It made it 3-1 at that point.
Yeah, So there you go. It was game 4, and he's going to be great out there. He's going to be perfect. There is a side note to the story that we do have to mention, even though everybody gets a little squirrely when we do. People are like, well, wait a second. Wasn't he one of the 10 non-vax players on the Royals that couldn't go to Toronto, and the Yankees still have another series north of the border? Yes, that is correct. John Heyman is reporting that Benintendi told Yankees players at the All-Star game, hey, if I get traded your direction, don't worry about that. I'm going to go get vaxxed. So that will be a non-story until people ask him why he decided to not get vaxxed while playing for Kansas City. And when he did after, but that's his decision and he's entitled to it, and he'll give an explanation and people will make their decisions off of that. So it sounds like all will be well when they have a regular season series and if they meet in the playoffs. Just something you have to check off these days.
If you listen to baseball today, we've already told you that I'm telling you right now again, nobody is going to be unvaccinated to come playoff times, whether they actually get the shot or not, whatever. I'm just saying we're not going to have that problem. I'm foreseeing the future.
Do you think this at all affects their pursuit of Juan Soto, the Yankees?
I don't. I think when you start to go after one of the starters that they're trying to get, like a Luis Castillo, that starts to affect your pursuit for Juan Soto, because a guy like Castillo is going to take away some of your top prospects, and putting a package together for Juan Soto, I mean, you're basically going to empty the farm system out. So I think if they go out and get one of these guys, which is kind of honestly like, I know Juan Soto's like the prize here, and in my head, this is what I think about Juan Soto and the Yankees. I feel like Cashman's there, and he's heard people be like, hey, man, are we going to be the Yankees or are we not going to be the Yankees? Like, I think he's heard that. And I think if you do want to be the freaking New York Yankees, when you got a guy like Juan Soto available, you got to go get him. You got to go get that guy. So although I think starting pitching is probably the priority for this year's team, I think Juan Soto's the bigger fish, and I think they're going to put together a real serious package and really go after him. If they do that, then they're going to. I don't know what starter you're going to get. You're not going to get a Castillo and a Juan Soto.
You know, the thing is that if you trade for Juan Soto, maybe there is a Washington reliever that they could throw in that would help the Yankees. Certainly not be a guy where you're like, ooh, that's really going to shake things up, but a guy. Maybe that's what you try and do, because you're going to pretty much empty the cupboard at that point, and you won't be able to get the starter you want or anything else. Which takes us to question 2 today, that Luis Castillo threw 7 solid innings yesterday against the Miami Marlins. In your opinion, was this his final start as a Cincinnati Red? And if it was, which uniform will he be donning for his next start?
I believe it was his last start as a Cincinnati Red, and what a start it was. He was just dotting the fastball at the top of the zone, then off that throwing the changeup. He got out of he struck 3 batters out with 2 guys on to get out of that inning, and just kind of like, he just showcased what he can do for you. When you can miss bats like that in a pressure situation, teams think about the postseason and their eyes are like, that is our guy. We want that guy. So he's very high in demand. I think there's a lot of teams in on him. It's really hard to narrow it down. I think the Yankees should be pursuing this guy, but like I just said, I think they're really going to make a run at Juan Soto. So if he's not going to be a Yankee, I think there are some sleeper teams that can go after him. And I'm going to give some love to my Minnesota Twins. They need it bad. They've been linked to him for a long time. And if they want to be serious about, making a run this postseason, and I think the fans in Minnesota are owed this. Like, you went out and got Carlos Correa. Don't stop there, man. Like, you're in a position now, like, go ahead and go get a Luis Castillo to freaking be at the top of your rotation. And then we could look at a Castillo, Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, 3 right there in the playoffs. I kind of like it. So I'm going to say right now, he goes to the Twins.
I think that's a wonderful call, in part because there's already a working relationship between those 2 teams. You just mentioned Sonny Gray, that deal that came in the offseason. Makes a ton of sense. I still look at the Dodgers and I say don't sleep on them. Andrew Friedman's been very quiet, but it wouldn't shock me if he goes, remember in 2017, Yu Darvish, year later, Manny Machado, last year, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. It's really interesting. That is some interesting stuff. So,
Chris, I wanted to say the Dodgers, but people comment on our show that I always say all the people are going to the Dodgers.
Well, I know, but you could say that about the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Cardinals have been an interesting trade opportunity, right? People, and they get mad. And like with the Rose rotation trade fantasy draft show, people are like, well, why didn't you have anybody go to the Blue Jays? Well, I did. It's just that somebody had picked that person earlier, and so I couldn't send him to the Blue Jays. So there are things that make sense. There are things that don't. All I can tell you is we've had basically 2 trades, right? The Vogelbach and now the Benintendi, right?
Yep.
Over the last 5 days or whatever it's been. It better get hot this weekend.
It's going to get hot, Chris.
Because I am going to be busy all day on Tuesday at Cleveland Browns camp. It is going to be very difficult for me to keep an eye on the entire trade deadline and the Browns practice. So just on a personal note, thank you.
You mean I get to do this show all by myself?
No, I'll be doing it from
thing over.
I'll be doing this from Cleveland.
Oh, okay, fine.
I'm bringing my equipment. What do you think I am?
Hey, the thing about like starters like this, especially guys with years of control, is every team wants them, Chris. Every freaking team wants these guys, so it's really hard to peg one team. So you really have to start looking about who has the resources, and that's why you mentioned teams like the Dodgers who have depth they can get rid of, or the monetary, they don't have the monetary restrictions, like. So that's why we always say teams like that. But Castillo could go anywhere. He really could, way, dude.
Toronto is a great fit for him.
He is. It is. And St. Louis, like you just said, like they're kind of like in flux. Like they need to see what's going on with Flaherty.
I still have a hang up of guys getting traded within the division.
I
don't know why.
Is that like statistically a thing?
Well, can you remember the last major trade we're talking about? I'm not talking about a deal on the periphery. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about a dude who gets traded. You know why? Why it doesn't happen
from the Red Sox to the Yankees.
Stop. Oh, what? Why that doesn't? Why it doesn't happen? I think because the GM that trades that guy, they have to face that team 19 times a year. Now that's going to change a little bit with the new schedule next year. But do you think that the Reds brass wants to hear every time Luis Castillo or every time the Cardinals would play the Reds, here's a shot of Luis Castillo? How's that? I mean, the fan base is already pissed off at the Reds enough.
You think you're a GM, how could you care about that? That's you not being good at your job then. Because you need to take the best. You need to take the best offer for your organization. I don't think some of these guys are not human beings, or they don't operate like human beings, Chris. Let me tell you, dude, they'll refer to people as the player. They don't even say names, dude.
Good point.
So don't tell me they operate like regular humans. They don't. And if you're a GM and you're like, dude, this package is the best package, but it's interdivision. Can't take it. Can't see this guy 19 times a year. You're not doing your job, dude. I would care agree with you. That.
I'm merely throwing out a possibility. I don't agree
People
with
love
it.
to say that. No, like you're not the only one. Everybody says that. Oh, it's interdivision. They can't do that. Like, I don't think if I'm a GM, I don't care about that, dude.
Well, seriously, I mean, we might be. I suppose the last one was the White Sox and the Cubs. That's the same city. It's not the same division, but it still is.
They had a big trade with the Kimbrel.
Quintana. No, not even that one. I was talking about the Quintana, Eloy Jimenez.
Oh yeah,
one. Right.
I just don't think that should matter. Maybe I'm just too ruthless, man. I'd be a ruthless GM.
All right.
I'd be calling you by your full name, not player. I'd be like your middle name.
I hate it when executives call them the player. I think it's the most disrespectful thing ever. In fact, I would come out in the press. I'd be like, just call me by my name. Like, I have a name. How would you like it if we just called you, well, the GM, instead of saying his name?
I don't think they would care. There's this guy. I don't know, man. I miss Terry Ryan. Terry Ryan was the best GM. That guy was like my dad before you.
Good human being.
Dude, he would tell you how it was. Like, he wasn't lying to you. And sometimes it made you feel pretty bad, but you needed it.
I love that stuff. Glasnow says nothing but glowing things about Eric Neander down in Tampa. He's like, no hierarchy. You can walk into his office at any time. He's accessible. He's down on the field.
Good hair. To that point, I never knew who was in charge in Tampa. I was like, who's freaking running this show? Because there's always like a 3 or 4, like a gaggle of front office people. And I'm like, you guys all work together. I kind of love that, man.
Yeah. All right. Gosh, I hate that we have to talk about this. Mike Trout has been diagnosed with a very rare upper back condition called costovertebral dysfunction at the T5. He might have to manage his entire career. The Angels trainer said the specialist that saw Trout does not see this condition very much in baseball players. Trout then came out after the game and was like, slow your roll. My career's not over. In fact, I plan on being back at the end of the season. Are you alarmed?
Sure I am, because this is our guy. Like this generation has Mike Trout to put up against all past generations. I mean, a lot of people consider Mike Trout the best player to ever play baseball. He's on this meteoric rise to like the Hall of Fame and to that number 1 spot. Problem is when you start missing games like he has, I mean, like just go back to 2020. Obviously, that's not his fault. Played in 53 games in the shortened season. Okay. But then the following year in 21 plays 36 games. If he doesn't play anymore this year, 79 games, those counting stats, he's missing probably 60, 70 homers in that span. One season, not his fault, but the other 2 from injuries. And that's when, you start to slide down that all-time list in those numbers. So I think when we're looking, I'm not concerned about like his overall health and like his career going forward. If anything, they'll be more careful, playing more days at DH, stuff like that, which is fine. I think that's okay with him. But when you start to compare him to the all-time greats and like those guys that are there, like they're so consistent and they played for so long and that's how they put up those numbers. And if Mike starts to miss time or, and even just these 3 seasons right here, you have arguments against him as being the guy. And that's kind of where I'm concerned about, because I think we have him. He's ours and we love that. But when you start, like I said, to miss games like this, it just affects those counting stats.
I can't help but think about Ken Griffey Jr.
Sure.
It was the first name that came to my brain when I read this headline. I was like, oh shit, is this where we're headed next? Now, if that means that eventually Mike Trout hits 600 home runs and ends up in Cooperstown, which he will, the Cooperstown part, I'm not so sure about the 600 home runs, then that's fine. I'm talking about personal enjoyment of a baseball fan and Trout's personal enjoyment of being able to get to the postseason. Ken Griffey Jr. played in about 15 playoff games in the first 8 years of his career, all in Seattle. After that, he got traded to his hometown Cincinnati Reds, where his first year he exploded. 145 games, 40 homers. Then the injuries started to pile up. I think he had played in 111 after that, and then didn't play in like even half a season for the next 3. Injury after injury after injury. He did bounce back. He had another 30 homer season somewhere down the line, which is great. But he never played a playoff game in a Cincinnati Reds uniform. He only played 3 more in his career, and that was with the Chicago White Sox after that. Most people don't even remember him as a Chicago White Sox. So is this the direction we're going to head with Mike Trout? I know I'm a panicker. I know I'm the dad of John Boy Media. I know I'm always worrying about shit. But it is the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all want him in the postseason. I don't know what the Angels are going to do with him. Obviously, they're going to keep him and try to surround him with a team that gets him to the postseason. They just haven't been able to figure it out yet, partly because they have the Astros in the division. I think that's like an understated problem that they've had to deal with, dude. And now you got the surging Mariners, like and then the Rangers are signed. Like they're probably long term, I don't know, like 3rd in that division, 4th in that division over the next 5 or 6 years. They're going to have to do something to rise in that division. We need Trout in the playoffs. We need Ohtani. Ohtani's not going to be there long term. No. I can almost guarantee that.
He might not even be there next week. We'll see. By the way, one thing on Trout, if he went to the Angels and was like, trade me, now with this condition, how much does that hurt his trade value?
I don't think not a lot. I don't know enough about the condition, but from what I've read, now it might shock people. I'm not a doctor. He said he's going to be fine. I think they're just going to manage the workload or do some things differently. I think he'll be okay. If he was on the trade market, it'd be crazy. Be crazy. You don't think so? You're out of your mind, dude. That face right there is out of its
He's got
mind.
a condition, dude. He's got a condition that weve never really heard of in the baseball world. I'd rather have him have
They're not trading him. They're not trading him.
Or Tommy John, because at least then I know what I know they're not. I mean, he has to go to the Angels. I believe he's got the entire no trade thing anyway.
Yeah.
And he's almost at 10 years of service time. So, okay. Can we move on? I can't talk about it. It makes me too sad.
He's going to be okay. He is going to be okay. We're going to be watching Mike Trout smash baseballs for the next 8 years.
Okay. So he gets to 500 homers, right?
He's at 330. Yes, he gets to 500 homers. You kidding me? 330 homers.
You make it sound like hitting 166 homers is easy in a career.
That's 4 years for him. Yes. Dude, he's a joke. Dude, don't forget how good Mike Trout is.
I know he is.
Come on, man. Let me look at the home run totals. All right, he's hit 40 twice. 41 in 2015 and 45 in 2019. So 5 years of homers. Yeah.
5 years of healthy homers.
You can be all right.
Okay. Astros swept for the first time all season by the Oakland A's.
Yes.
Good job, A's. Now Houston is hosting Seattle in a series. Julio Rodriguez has homered in each of the games that he has been back since missing 4 games with an injury. How long before J-Rod finishes in the top 5 of the MVP voting?
Oh, I mean, it could be as soon as next year. I mean, that's how good this guy is. And I'm not even like making that up. Like, he's 21 years old, and usually you want to wait a few seasons to see how a guy does. This guy made the adjustment in like 2 months? Like, he figured major league pitching out in 2 months. Now they're going to find some holes in this guy's swing, and there's going to be a book out on him, and he's going to have to make more adjustments, but he's shown that he can do that. This guy has every single tool you can imagine. So what I like about him and like that MVP, race is that he's so young, and like this is when guys steal bases and their value goes up so high. When you run the bases like he can, that brings your value up a ton, where other guys aren't doing that. So I like him in the MVP discussion as a youngster. Like, think back about when Trout was stealing all those bases, and like, guys start to slow down as they get older. They realize, hey, maybe I don't want to do that to my body so much. Julio at 21, 22, 23, 24, he's going to steal 30, 40 back. This guy might be a perennial 30-30 guy. Like a perennial 30-30 guy until he decides, I don't want to run anymore. So I'll say, next year he could be a top 5 MVP guy, 100%.
I think you're a year late.
You think this year?
I do. Listen, hear me out,
down, bro. Okay.
Hear me out. And it's in part because of who else would fill out the top 5 right now. Okay. We can all agree on Judge, Ohtani, Yordan Alvarez. Now tell me the next guy in line.
Now I got to go look at some stats.
Well, but okay, I'll help you out here. Nobody on the Yankees, nobody on Boston, nobody on Toronto as of yet. Now, somebody from Toronto could get uber hot and carry them.
You're right, man.
Nobody on Tampa Bay, nobody on Minnesota.
Well, McClanahan can get some votes.
He's not going to get no way. Not for top 5 MVP.
He's going to get MVP votes.
Not top 5.
Probably not.
No
top 5.
way.
You're right. You're right.
Way.
You're right.
Maybe Jose Ramirez. He's slumped though a little bit, and we'll see if Cleveland ends up getting in the playoffs somehow. Then he's going to get top 5 votes. But there's still another space. I'm saying there's a 5th guy. So nobody else on Houston. Nobody on the Angels. He is. If he helps Seattle break the longest playoff drought in North American sports currently, he is the face of that, and people will react to it.
B-War right now in the American League amongst position players goes Judge, Alvarez, Devers, LeMahieu, Trout, Ramirez, and checking in at number 7 is J-Rod. Trout's not going to be in the discussion because, I mean, he's probably going to be done for the year. Angels fans, he's probably done for the year, okay?
Don't go backward on our topic.
I don't think LeMahieu is going to get top 5 votes either, even though he's put up, a bunch of value.
Not sexy enough.
You're right. He's not sexy enough. And yeah, man, you could be right about this. I thought I was going like, hey, man, like he could do it next year, but I thought about this year. I didn't want to give it to him right away, but you're right, dude. I mean, the way this guy plays baseball, there's just not a hole in his game.
And we have to remember, Baseball Writers of America are human, I think. And so they look at this and they go, wow, Seattle hasn't been in the freaking playoffs in 21 years, and this kid is the star of their team. Hell yeah, I'm going to put him 4th or 5th in the MVP voting. Hell yes. Hell yeah.
I'm telling you, people, watch the legs. The legs are so important. This guy is going to steal so many bags that add so much value. I've been shouting that we need to change OPS to, if you steal a base, that should add to your slugging percentage.
Huh.
Why not? It's the same thing.
Okay.
Right.
I'm willing to listen.
Don't you like that? Because what's the difference if you hit a double or you get a single and you steal second base? You're still on second base.
Right. Yes.
And if you get thrown out,
it goes down
a little bit off of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Last thing. We mentioned the A's sweeping the Astros yesterday before the afternoon game. Steph and Aisha threw out the first pitches, and Steph took some BP as well. Were you impressed by his performances, or were you a little miffed?
I'm not going to say I was impressed, but I wasn't like, wow, that's horrible. I've seen some other basketball players try to throw a baseball, and it's usually a pretty funny thing. The ball looks like a golf ball in their hands, but I think Steph did a good job. There was some velo there, which I liked. And if he was going to miss, you missed down in the way like that. He didn't leave it over the plate, which is good. I think he said that Aisha kind of got in his way a little bit, so we have to take that into consideration. The backwards hat during BP, classic right there. The swing needs a little bit of work. He's going a little bit too forward with the weight. Let's get that coil. What he's got to remember is just play like a golf swing. He's got a great golf swing. And it could be very similar to that. So, Steph, if you're listening to this, let me take you to the cage a few days. We'll work on that a little bit, and we can iron things out pretty quickly. The guy's an athlete, dude. He's one of those guys that can do whatever he wants. So for him to look as good as he did, you have to give him credit.
You mentioned NBA players looking silly. I think at the 93 All-Star game at Camden Yards, they let Patrick Ewing hit. And it's one of the weirdest looking things, seeing a 7-foot dude go out there and try and swing the stick. First of all, just to get a bat in his hand doesn't look like a toothpick is trying enough. And then John Wall a couple years ago, go find his first pitch, Dan Rourke, and put it in the YouTube portion of this program. I mean, literally the guy was throwing a bounce pass. It was
you remember Giannis in the batting cages.
But Giannis isn't from here. Giannis isn't from here.
What does that mean?
Grow up here. Well, it means he didn't grow up. It would be like us trying to play cricket.
I mean, does Patrick Ewing, did he play baseball growing up?
No, he also
maybe he did. Who knows?
But I
wasn't.
I don't.
Where was he born?
I'd have to check. He moved and he went to. Did he go to like Roxbury Latin High School? I think he moved here. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
That's some trivia right there. I had no idea.
Pretty sure.
Was he like an army brat?
No. I don't believe he was born here. Alden can look that up. I'm not 100% sure, but most important thing the Currys did, they brought 1,000 camp kids to the game.
And he stayed the entire game. After the game, they were running bases around with the kids. He was there. That's so awesome. Oh gosh, I'm watching John Wall right now.
See? Bounce pass.
That's tough.
Kingston, that's where it was. Kingston, Jamaica. That's right.
My friend Ollie's dad is from Kingston, Jamaica. He named his son Kingston.
Nice. All right, what do you have on John Boy?
Shoot, we had the our Talking Baseball episode. The midweek episode came out yesterday. Pretty good banter episode between Jake, Jimmy, and I. And then, you mentioned at the top of the show, man, Warehouse Games floorball, Forgotten Rotten making their debut against the JM Sales team. A bunch of athletes versus a bunch of dorks.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Did we ever find out what time that airs, guys? I think this live stream is either at 6 or 7. Please check the JM Warehouse Games social media feed. It'll be out there. Lucas Giolito episode dropped today. A lot of fun. Made an interesting purchase during the All-Star break. Got to see his new house where he'll be living in San Diego for at least a year or so. He and his wife, Ari, are going to be out there. He tells us why his dog, Louie, can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Talk about a lot of stuff that's not baseball for 35 minutes. And then we do dive into a disappointing first half for him, for the White Sox, how he plans on fixing it, all sorts of stuff. Floorball game 2 tonight, live stream at 6 o'clock Eastern. I'll be on the live stream. Plouffe, you'll join us, won't you?
I'll do my best to be there.
Oh, that means now I got daddy duty. That's okay.
Got a lot of stuff going on right now.
But you better not just be doing some shit on your own. Let's not take that.
What does that mean?
Working people. It means if you're doing something for one of your kids or for Olivia, that's fine. But if you're just sitting around playing another round of golf instead of live streaming,
I can't golf. Look at this, bro. I took my Band-Aid off.
Oh, stop. Put that down. That's gross. Go get some
all
Neosporin.
all I do is dad stuff, bro. That's what I love.
I know. Believe me. That's all we do. That's all we turn into. And it does not stop. It does not. Your dad, you're most supportive. That's what you have to be there, good and bad. And you are just a freaking human ATM. That shit don't stop. Holy smokes.
Except it's not just dollar bills in your ATM. It's love. It's affection. It's
that's
food,
the most important stuff.
Oh my gosh. They constantly just take things from you.
Yes. Yeah. They whittle you down so you're at the nub.
I love it. I love every freaking second of it.
For our outstanding producer, Dan Rourke, our summer intern, the vacationing Alden Stone. That is Trevor Plouffe. I'm Chris Rose. We will see you Friday on Baseball Today.